You know, get some sprites, or are we just going to ride the stick figure battle train all the way through?
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that because I had an experience with something that I also looked at for a long period, and I'm like, getting the sprites from the most basic graphics possible. Oh wow, that was a big step to actually put graphics on it at all. Like Yomi Hustle is running a million different fucking things simultaneously on a black void. And I
Mm-hmm.
imagine that like actually adding sprites to the different like permutations of events and holding them for long periods would be a huge endeavor. Um and I played Dwarf Fortress, which
Ah,
after 20 years finally got a patch that adds graphics.
did it now? Okay.
It's the only game that I can think of that fits this profile at all. Dwarf Fortress, prior to a couple weeks ago, was an ASCII game, and it was an ASCII game dating back to 2002
I've
that
heard of it.
was just getting updated and updated and updated and updated and adding every feature you could conceivably understand with no graphics. And
No,
people would put out mod packs that
yeah.
would
No,
add their own graphics.
keep in mind, of course, sometimes adding graphics is not the way to go. Nidhogg, um,
Yeah,
and 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 other times the simple placeholder graphics you have are fine. Vampire Survivors, right?
and
But
Nidhogg 2 is it's the worst.
so you know, fuck go back button in full effect. But what? Yeah, Dwarf Fortress is a word that has been floating in my brain as like, oh yeah, that's a thing, but I don't know what it is really or what's up with
Yeah.
it, and
So
why all this noise about Dwarf Fortress now.
the why all this noise about Dwarf Fortress now is by far the easiest question to answer, and that's because it came out on Steam and it has graphics,
Okay.
right? It has a mouse interface now, which means you can use your mouse without having to download like a mod pack. So
Oh.
like a human being, like a regular human being, could play Dwarf Fortress as of now,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. 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 I'm looking.
And
I see it.
you have heard over the years people's Dwarf Fortress stories about, oh man, all my dwarves took off their clothes and decided to start eating each other because a squirrel barfed on them, or whatever, right? But it was never actually very clear to me what that game actually was.
Mm-hmm.
um and what it is its own genre. It is a sim game in which you are a top-down god perspective, and you are working as a director to a group of dwarves. You can direct them to build. You can direct them to harvest materials. You can direct them where to build. You can direct them what to build. You can direct them however you like. However, they have their own stats, their own needs, their own wants, and then they will do things on their own time. It was the longest and most difficult thing for me to understand, because in my head an RTS, or I go build it, right, becomes, oh, well, I clicked the button to build the thing, and then I moved it over to the fucking spot, and I said fucking build it, so I expect three guys to walk over and start building it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead, what it does is it goes into like a generalized work task thing, and the dwarves now know, oh, okay, Pat wants us to build the thing. When one of you has time, can you go start building it? And
Okay.
as they pass by each other, they will talk, and then they will go and hang out and fucking complain that they don't have their own room, and then they'll go back and do it, and then I'm in the process of setting up work orders inside the interface, and let me tell you, it's the most complicated interface I've ever seen.
So,
Like,
like one of those factory games, but like it's also The Sims where there's
yes,
personalities. Okay.
yes. And uh I'm it's, I'm clicking on dwarves to find their basic needs, and it's like, oh, this guy's complaining that he doesn't have anywhere to pray. right? So okay, well I'll direct the dwarves to mine out a room underground and then put a shrine in there, and then I have to go into my zoning bylaw function in order to zone the room as a place of worship so
Jesus.
that they can
Okay.
do it. Okay, now I'm going to zone this corner as the tavern. Then I'm going to name the tavern. Then I'm going to have them start working on fucking benches. Oh, they don't like that I shove them all into a dormitory because I like to do things efficiently. Okay, I'll carve out all these rooms, and then I will use the bedroom zoner ownership tool to fucking assign each bedroom to a dwarf, and now they're a little happier. Oh, and now there's a trading company coming. Oh, did I make anything to sell? No. Okay, do I have anything extra? Okay, I have some food that I got made. I accidentally made too much food because I didn't disable the ability to use booze to make the food. So now there's a bunch of booze food. Can I sell that? For shit, etc., etc. And it's just this massive orgy of interconnected systems.
Yeah, so the sentence describing the game on Steam is the deepest, most intricate simulation of a world that's ever been created.
Mhm.
That's a huge mouthful of a sentence
Right?
to throw out there.
And every every conceivable permutation of interactions between two states will occur and be simulated, right? I was told don't let cats into the tavern because if dwarves get too drunk and vomit on the cats can die, and then the cats' corpses will be in the tavern, which will cause people to vomit more and possibly get, just every conceivable simulation of events because it's been in dev for 20 years. And more than anything, I spent like 4.5 hours playing it, and I was so miserable. And it wasn't, so you can pause the game at any time or you can speed it up if you told them to build a big thing. And so miserable. I was like so anxious that I felt that I was going to vomit. Now, some of that is my own anxiety issues, and some of that is obsessive compulsive disorder, yada, 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 right? But the game's community and the long running history of Dwarf Fortress has totally failed to adequately describe what the game is, because everybody's story that you see on Twitter or Reddit or oh man, my Dwarf Fortress game was so crazy, this happened and then this happened and this happened, and it's always a little event that led to a big dangerous event that led to some fucking catastrophe that annihilated the whole fucking settlement, right? It's always like that. So it gives the impression that at any time, at any moment, one chair out of place could cause a death spiral for your little guys, and you got to be careful. So I ended up spending most of that time paused, queuing up just so many instructions in a row. Mine this, build that, build this, here's the work order, here's the work order, here's where you go, this is coming, build that. And I got to the point where I'm like, I've put so many commands down, I have to unpause and then just let it run because they have to start on these commands.
Okay.
And they're kind of like mad because I've assigned them so much work that they're not, like, they're literally working like 10 hours a day and going to bed. And they're like upset by that. And I'm like, and everyone's just telling me to let it run. And I'm like, but if I let it run, then something bad will happen, or I won't be preparing fast, because I'm thinking of it like an RTS.
Yeah.
Right?
Are there like diseases that they're gonna get, or outbreaks
the whole time,
fires?
I'm waiting for the fucking 11-minute Zerg rush to come and hit my fucking
right.
fortress.
Yeah.
And every now and then you see like one comment that just breaks your contextualization and completely reorders the way that you see it. And somebody described, like, Pat, the actual issues that you're worried about can take 20, 40, 100 hours to show up. Yeah, there'll be problems, but like, you're not always on the precipice of dramatic failure unless you like load into like an evil or undead biome or something like that. The reason why people tell those stories, the reason why people talk about Dwarf Fortress the way it is is because it was a entire group of guys that didn't want to admit that they were playing Dwarf Animal Crossing with no graphics.
Oh my god! It's not an RTS. It's a fucking it's an Animal Crossing.
It's The
Okay,
Sims or it's
okay,
Animal Crossing.
okay.
It's
Because
just it has millions of interactions.
when you said, "Oh, those problems will arise, but that'll be 40 hours in," I'm like, "Hold on a minute. Aren't you gonna die and restart by then many times?"
Apparently depends on the if you have like an
So,
evil biome, like yeah,
okay.
everything that dies will come back to life, and
Oh,
then you have a whole undead
all your
problem.
fruit goes rotten. Oh no, what are we gonna
Okay,
do?
go make sure guys go fish more so that they
Yeah.
can, and you can mitigate it. It's and
Got it.
it's
Got
like
it. Got it.
it's a bunch of dudes running a model train set or an ant colony that has
Mm-hmm.
no graphics. It's like literally fucking numbers on a page, like a matrix scroll, that don't want to admit that they're playing with their fucking like dolls, essentially.
Now, this came out in
And so they
2000?
2002.
Yeah,
And
okay.
so instead of admitting I'm playing with my dwarf dolls, and then they're making a cute house, and they're going like, oh man, the zombies kept attacking me with the fucking
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
all
yeah,
cope.
yeah.
And that was like the last thing that I heard in that massive run. And the instant I saw that, I'm like, oh, I completely misunderstood what's happening. All the stress just evaporated,
Animal
right?
Crossing.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, oh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
oh, Animal Crossing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I should. Oh,
Just jump
okay.
in, have fun, jump out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like, when you make a choice like that, like when you're doing a Glitter Mitten Grove, you know, style thing, like that is an aggressive, deliberate choice. I'm not surprised to see a bunch of people saying losing is the point, because it's
Yeah,
like
the game literally, when you load up, it goes losing is fun. Don't worry about it.
yeah, because if it's one of those things where like it simulates everything so aggressively so that you could have the most creative disasters possible, not so that you could have the perfect, efficient, output and succeed swimmingly, then it's like, yeah, then just take a little bit of that, the disco attitude and lean into it.
Now, I will admit, people know about the Fallout 4 settlement community building tips that I had, where you can cram like beds right next to each other. They don't even have to have rooms for the NPCs to get up and on. And then I locked that old lady in a cage because she was annoying me. And then I just made a strip mall of all the stores. And when I played Animal Crossing, I had all the houses attempt to be equidistant from each other for efficiency purposes, and then I tried to make a gigantic flower bed that would most efficiently cross pollinate all the different colors so that I could get every flower color. And then I fucked it up and was like, my settlement looks like shit. So like, yeah, no, I definitely tend towards efficiency nightmares.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But uh like, I don't know, like the just all I needed this whole time was like, I'm like, I have to, because the game says, oh, you have to have your community succeed, right? But that's like a pretty vague metric, right?
Yeah.
And and like, all somebody needed to tell me, like, what's the point of Dwarf Fortress? To make a cool fort.
Yeah.
That's
No.
it.
All you needed was Tom Nook to give you a loan and for
Yeah.
amiibos to be compatible. Yeah.
And so I'm going to be streaming RimWorld tomorrow night. I've dedicated an entire stream for RimWorld because unlike Dwarf Fortress, I have a bunch of friends that play RimWorld and have been playing RimWorld for a long time. And I went into RimWorld and I played the tutorial. And first of all, it has a real tutorial. And second of all, it was built with graphics and a mouse in mind. And when you mouse over shit, there's tooltips, and like it's like a it's like a fucking real video game. Like Dwarf Fortress is like a fucking artifact of decades past that somebody made playable
Oh,
on your system,
it's
whereas
not just
RimWorld is a real video game.
it's not just aesthetically old. It actually doesn't like have like a mouse cursor and things like that.
Oh,
Like,
it has the mouse cursor now, but it was never built with the mouse cursor in mind. It was built so that you could play an Excel spreadsheet.
okay, okay,
And the other thing, and
damn,
this is
yeah.
actually this is the biggest nitpick I had by far, and I don't think it's it's fixable, which is the dwarves don't animate. Like the graphics are cute, but they're very blunt, right? When a dwarf goes to mine something, it just places the dwarf next to the mine, and he stays there with his pickaxe out, totally unmoving, and then the rock he's next to disappears,
Okay.
right? And then he moves over. It's that kind of thing. That lack of feedback made it like insanely difficult for me to understand what guys were doing.
Actions are happening. Yeah.
Right, like God, dwarves would be standing in the fucking in the goddamn carpentry store or whatever the fuck it was. I'm like, what are you building? I can't tell what you're building. I can go into your stats and see that you're actually really mad because a guy said your wife was ugly and that you wish you could play horseshoes. But what are you building right now? Which work order are you getting to? Are you even doing anything? Are you on your way to leave? I messed around with RimWorld a little bit, and while it is also very primitively, you can see people like pick up items and move them. They have a little animation that's a little flash that looks like a welding torch when they're mining or building something.
Is this where Shovel Knight got Strike the Earth from?
Yes.
No
yes,
shit.
It is.
Huh.
Also, somebody asks a really good question. Pat, do you want them to animate 500 different animations for creating different objects? No. I want them to have one extra frame of animation that says, I am building something. I want them to cycle from their neutral to a little hammer and have them switch back and forth between so I can look at it and go, he's doing something, instead of just standing in the shop. I know it is not the end of the world. I know it doesn't actually affect basic functionality, but the actual feedback I get from that is really important to me.
In case you have people standing around doing nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which they do. So I'm going to give RimWorld a shot. I don't think Dwarf Fortress is for me. I think RimWorld has a potential. There's also, it's interesting because they keep, about the graphics, is that the graphics scales linearly in the opposite of complexity. So like Timberborn, a game about beavers making a beaver settlement, is Beaver Fortress, is what it is. And it has really nice, pretty RTS style graphics. And it is way, way less complicated than Dwarf Fortress or RimWorld, because they made graphics and animations for the beavers to do.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
RimWorld looks like Madness Combat, right? So it's not quite as in-depth as Dwarf Fortress, but it's much more in-depth than Timberborn. Right? And so it's like a sliding scale.
Yeah, and I guess that's where the Yomi Hustle kind of similarities kind of are, where you're like, you're doing less effort, you're spending less time on the visuals so that you can do more behind the scenes.
Well, the thing with Dwarf Fortress was always that the guys who were making it didn't know how to do art. They're programmers making a programming game.
Yeah.
For about dwarf shit.
Which, if you're a good, I mean, it's always great advice. If you don't have an artist, that's fine. Start anyway. We can swap that shit in later. Like, the proof of concept being fun is the most important part.
So I'm excited to play RimWorld. I am excited to play RimWorld because I fucked around with it for maybe an hour, and it was like the ability to like mouse over and see like a detailed tooltip of like what the zoning button does is night and day. The ability to, I don't know, go onto the mod workshop and get a mod that makes it so that guys don't build themselves into buildings and be unable to escape the walls that they built around themselves. Yeah, that's appreciated.
So the jump into, since Dwarf Fortress got updated, you're gonna jump into the genre now a little
Yes.
bit.
Because now I know what the genre actually is. Whereas more than that, I thought I knew what the genre was. And that image in my head was completely wrong. Now I
Okay.
actually know what it is. It's Animal Crossing with depth.
Um, how long can you ignore it for and let it run before you have to re-interact with it?
I depends.
Because I'm like, are
Uh
you gonna try to run like a 400-hour colony?
I don't know, man. I
You
when I
know.
was playing Dwarf Fortress, I had so many fucking things queued up, and they I had to wait like a while for them to actually fucking do them, right? You could queue up infinity tasks if you wanted and have it run forever. You could automate some of those tasks and have it run forever like a little fucking ant farm. Um, how long could I walk away from it and let it run? I guess that depends on how self-sufficient I made it, right?
Hmm.
In my baby's experience, like 5 minutes, and just like watch them go about their business and then click on them and what are they complaining about? And it's like, oh, I talked to Dwarf Master Ferguson about cats for 10 minutes. I'm sad now.